raise your hand if you watched the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. Even if it was just for the commercials. All right. So was that everybody? Everybody watched. Okay. So who's that? The picture's kind of small. Nick Foles. All right. So even if you weren't watching the Super Bowl for the game and you were just watching for the commercials, this guy won. All right. He's the quarterback for the Eagles. Okay. He took down Tom Brady and the Patriots. And if you don't know anything about football, Tom Brady is considered to be maybe the greatest quarterback of all time, right? And the Patriots are this incredible dynasty who is there consistently year after year after year, and they've won consistently year in and year out. And so Nick Foles is this guy who took down Tom Brady, threw for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, and even caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl too. It was a phenomenal game by Nick Foles. He was named most valuable player of the Super Bowl. All right? Nick Foles has a tremendous story. Nick Foles has a fascinating story. But what most people don't know about Nick Foles' story is they just know this part. They just see the confetti. They just see him holding the trophy up in the air. But what most people don't know about Nick Foles' story is that just 12 months before hosting up that trophy with the confetti, he was on the other side of the country playing for a different team. He was playing for the Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams had just signed him to a contract extension. He was the starter of the team. He was the number 1 quarterback, and they just signed him to an extension. They said, "We want you to be our quarterback for the long term, moving forward." And 3 months after he signed that contract extension, they called Nick Foles and they said, "You know what? Never mind. You're not good enough." And he got cut from the team. Not traded to another team. He got cut. They said, "You're not good enough." Now, I don't know Nick Foles personally, so I can't ask him what exactly he was feeling at that time, but I would venture to guess that was a pretty low moment for Nick Foles. After just being kind of on top of his game and his craft, he was at the bottom, lower than low. You cannot go any lower than being cut. And so Nick Foles was actually thinking about stepping away from football altogether. He was actually thinking about saying, "I'm done." And so he did decide to try and find another team, and he did end up landing with the Philadelphia Eagles. But his dark days were not over yet, you see, because he gets signed with the Eagles, but the Eagles have this other quarterback who's the starter. And so now Nick Foles is the number 2 guy. He's got to sit on the sideline and watch this younger, less experienced quarterback play in front of him. How many of you have had those Nick Foles moments in your life? Those moments where you feel like you just can't go any lower. Those moments where you feel like no one sees you, that you're not being appreciated. Those moments where you feel like, why is this happening to me? Those moments where you say, what did I do to deserve this? And Nick Foles had a choice. He had a choice at that moment of his life, at those dark seasons of his life, where he's now sitting on the sideline with the Philadelphia Eagles watching. It would have been very easy for him to stop preparing, right? And he's over 2 months, he's over halfway through the season, and he hasn't seen any meaningful playing time. All he's done is just watched on the sideline. And it would have been very easy for him to kind of check out, right? And instead what happens is that quarterback who's in front of him ends up getting hurt. And he can't play for the rest of the year. And so here are the Eagles. They're in first place. And here comes Nick Foles, who hasn't played any meaningful playing time in months. And he's got to step into this spot where he's expected to just pick up and continue on with the success that the Eagles were already having. And you see, he'd been preparing for months. Even though he was stuck on the sideline, he continued to prepare and have faith that his opportunity was going to come. And so we all know how the story ends with him hosting the trophy with the confetti. You see, those really dark times in Nick Foles' life, he had a choice. I told you last week that you can make it your excuse or you can make it a part of your story. And Nick Foles made getting cut and being the backup and being on the sideline a part of his story. And he said something really interesting after the Super Bowl that I want to share with you. He was talking to the media after the game, and he's got his Super Bowl champion hat on, and he just hoisted the MVP trophy of the game. And this is what he said. I think the big thing is don't be afraid to fail. In our society today, Instagram, Twitter, it's a highlight reel. It's all the good things. And when you look at it, you think, wow, when you have a rough day or your life's not as good as that you're failing. He goes on and says, failure is a part of life. That's a part of building character and growing. Without failure, who would you be? He said, I wouldn't be up here if I hadn't fallen thousands of times, made mistakes. We're all human. We all have weaknesses. He says, I'm not perfect. I'm not Superman. I might be in the NFL and we might have just won the Super Bowl, but hey, we still have daily struggles. I still have daily struggles. When you look at a struggle in your life, just know that that's just an opportunity for your character to grow. And that's really just been the message. If something's going on in your life and you're struggling, embrace it because you're growing. Again, I don't know what you're struggling with right now. I don't know what your Nick Foles moment is right now. I don't know what your grades are like. I don't know if you've just been cheated on. I don't know if your parents just got divorced. I don't know what's going on in your life. But I do know that we all have Nick Foles moments in our life. And if you haven't had one yet, I can promise you life is going to punch you in the face at some point. And we have an opportunity to look at that moment, that tough season of our life, as punishment or training. You see, punishment looks backwards. Punishment says, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? Why am I the only one who's going through this? But instead, if we look at it as training, we look in the opposite direction. We look forward. Training says, how can I use this to get stronger? How can this make me better? How can this help me? You're never going to step into your potential. You're never going to step into the life of your dreams without resistance, without storms. And eventually those storms are going to run out of rain. Eventually those storms, the waves are going to settle down. And if you continue to step forward, if you don't quit, if you don't throw in the towel, eventually, like Nick Foles, you're going to step into that life that you wanted. I can guarantee if we called Nick Foles right now, he would say that being cut and then being named the backup was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to him. But I know that it didn't feel like that in the moment, did it? So again, is it your excuse or is it a part of your story? Is whatever you're going through punishment, or is it actually training you to step into the life that you want? You have a choice. Go win the day.